Today's call is on a walk-in cooler. That's iced up. And it's got a bad fan motor. We're gonna start by putting the unit into a off cycle by turning the temp control. And then we'll adjust it later to let the fans run. Now that we had the evaporator coil defrosted, you could see how bad this coil was, how dirty it was. This thing was caked with grease and buildup, obviously from them leaving the door open too much. It ended up taking a lot of degreaser and we got it all cleaned up.
Well, that's about as good as we can get it. Better than nothing. Still a little funky in the top. Might give it another quick rinse, but definitely better than it was. Yeah, I'll definitely give it another rinse.
Unfortunately, they don't make products that have the quality that this coil does. The evaporator coil has lasted many years. Unfortunately, I couldn't sell them something today that would last this long. 1993. Heatcraft doesn't make a product that lasts this long anymore. But anyways, we're going to put it back together now and troubleshoot it and figure out why it froze up. Could have been just because of a dirty evap, but we're going to double check everything just to make sure. Okay, so the unit's running now, defrosted, cleaned up. Everything looks good as far as pressures, sight glass is clear. I'll pull up a screenshot here in a minute of the pressures, but we're looking good so far, so we're going to adjust the temperature controller and make sure it comes down to temperature. And we'll see what happens, but more than likely that's going to be it. The temperature controller even looks to be pretty accurate, so we're just going to watch it come down. My assumption is that this was caused by a dirty evaporator and a bad evaporator fan motor. We ended up changing two motors actually, because this one right here was going bad, so that one could have been part of the problem too. But that's it. So just a little recap. We had a service call on a walk-in cooler that was iced up. When we arrived, it definitely was iced up. It was really thick. Right off the bat, we had a bad fan motor, evaporator fan motor. So what I did was I had another person there with me. I had him start defrosting the coil while I went and picked up the fan motor. And I went ahead and picked up all three fan blades because they were very old and I could see tiny cracks in two of them. We put the de-iced it, and then the coil was actually so dirty I had to clean it with New Bright condenser coil cleaner. It was bad. We did 3 cleanings on it and rinsed it, cleaned it, rinsed it, cleaned it, rinsed it, and then we flushed the drain really good. On those particular jobs, you really got to make sure you flush that drain. I bet you anything we're still going to have a call in a couple days that they've got a plugged up drain, because you can never get all that stuff out of those drain pans. It just takes forever. On those ceiling mounted coils, they just turn into a disaster, but I digress. We cleaned the evaporator coil, turned the system back on. I found that a second motor was going bad, so I went ahead and replaced that one too. Luckily, I had it on my truck. So all in total, we changed 2 motors and 3 fan blades. Checked the system out. Refrigerant pressures looked good. Temperature controller seemed to be cutting in and out where it should be. I went ahead and took off. Left the guy there that was working with me just to watch the box come down to temp. When I left, it was at 40 degrees, I think, so I just wanted him to see it get down to 37. And that was it, so we're good to go. Didn't really find any other things wrong with it. You know, I take that back. I did go on the roof, and I found that the defrost clock did not have the correct time on it. So what I did was I just talked to the manager. I know for a fact that they shut the breaker off to the condenser unit quite often whenever they're unloading or loading the walk-in up with a fresh delivery. So I went ahead and talked to the manager and told him that I set the correct time on there and just told him to keep an eye on it. If we have another freeze-up problem, then maybe we'll look at the defrost clock, but I wanted to give it a chance basically just before I sold him a new clock. he was cool with that. And that's it. Okay.